Small businesses are the majority of U.S. businesses and are vital to the health of the economy, but they are often underrepresented in economic data. University of Chicago economics professor Ufuk Akcigit is here to discuss the latest findings from the Intuit QuickBooks Small Business Index and how current conditions are impacting small business growth. Professor, thank you so much for joining us. So explain what this index is and why it's important to represent small businesses in economic data.
As you mentioned, small businesses are the majority of the U.S. economy. Indeed, more specifically, 98% of businesses in the U.S. have less than 100 employees, and 77% of them have less than 10 employees, which makes them a very important employer in the U.S. economy. Second, they are an important source of innovation and economic growth in the United States. And third, they are very vulnerable because they don't have internal capital. Whenever macroeconomic conditions are worsening, the first group that's being affected by that are the smallest of the small businesses. So therefore, it is important to monitor them closely. And unfortunately, the official data is not able to keep track of small businesses near real time. And this is exactly the gap Intuit QuickBooks Small Business Index is filling in. By providing a timely index, it's keeping track of the health of the smallest of the small businesses in the U.S.
Good to know. And what's the most important takeaway from the new data?
So I guess the most important message of the index is that by looking at the aggregate economy, we cannot draw the same conclusion about the small businesses. Even though the labor market has been being tight over the past year or so, when we look at the small businesses, unfortunately, the same thing has not been true for small businesses. And Q1 2024, small business employment has declined by 0.44%, which amounts to roughly 58,000 jobs in the United States.
Oh, wow. So give us the biggest challenges small businesses face.
Of course, post-COVID, the U.S. economy globally, but also the U.S. economy has gone through some rough times. Inflation went up to 40-year high levels, and the interest rate, the policy rate, is 20-year high. So as a result, these macroeconomic conditions are not very friendly, especially for the smallest of the small businesses. And small businesses are having a hard time accessing capital in these conditions. The banks are typically cutting towards small businesses. As a result, they switch over to using their credit cards to finance their business. And when we look at the data, compared to the pre-pandemic, credit card usage has gone up almost 20%, which is a very expensive way of financing a business. And that's why I think this is an important alarming situation that we should all take into account when we are discussing the U.S. economy.